Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Tai'Shar and a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Will.
I'm Sam.
And we are continuing on with the Shadow Rising. So Sam, why don't you take it away? I believe we're on to chapter 16.
We are indeed. Perrin is dreaming of White Cloaks killing Fail. He's having nightmares. When he gets up at daybreak...
This is not a hopeful dream in this case. The thing, maybe some guys have had that a few times with, oh man, just put me out of my misery.
Oh man. He gets up at daybreak, goes looking for Loyal, hit the road for home. Fail is already there. And tells Perrin that Loyal saved a bunch of kids during the fighting with the Trollocs by gathering them and women and children in a room and holding the door against the Shadow Spawn. Poor Loyal is caught right in the middle of this little petty lovers quarrel. Fael has made Loyal take an oath to show her the ways. Ogier never break an oath, and Loyal's like, "Come on, let's just can we not do this?" But he's he's gonna do what he said. But he's in one way or another, he's happy to leave Tyr because he ran into an Ogier from studying Shangtai, who told him his mother is on his trail and is gonna settle him down with a good wife. Loyal's ears stiffen. I swear my dog could play Loyal like part of the time. All the ear expressions. Yeah. Loyal doesn't want to go home and settle down with a wife, no matter how fine he thought that one Ogier chick was. He has books to write.
Yeah. It's funny that Loyal's aspiration, and when he's thinking of, I don't want to get married, it's not like so I can party down like Matt would be thinking.
Right.
But because I've got to write books.
I've got to see what happens so I can get my book right.
Right.
I refuse to get too much into this whole dumb back and forth between Fael and Perrin, honestly. I mean, there's plenty of ongoing...
Yes.
We'll touch on it. She convinces Loyal he's made an oath, so he has to take Fael. She says Perrin can tag along if he wants, but he has to ask. He refuses, saying they'll follow at a distance. He brings Gaul, while Fael brings Bane and Chiad. Fael refuses to let the boys travel close unless Perrin asks her. This whole thing is just exhausting. I really feel bad for Loyal, mainly. Just awkward and petty. The Aiel, of course, treated as a great big joke. Because, of course, they do.
Aiel humor is its own thing, as we continue to discover throughout the next few books.
Elaine and Nynaeve have man troubles of their own. Elaine is mad that Rand is okay with her leaving, even though she wouldn't have stayed if he'd asked. Lan is mad because he thought Nynaeve was going back to Tar Valon. Of course, she's going to chase Black Aja. He gets so mad that he sweeps her off her feet with a kiss. Elaine and Nynaeve part ways with Egwene, which is a state of affairs which lasts a long time, not counting Teleron Riyadh meetups.
Yes.
This is like, she Elaine and Nynaeve go one way, Egwene and Aviendha go another, and that's the way it is for a good
right. While. I just feel like I need to say here, on my first read through, the fact that Aviendha was of any import totally escaped me, because she's
there.
So just there, but not really playing a major part. And when I came to this reread, I was kind of expecting, like, maybe I missed it. Maybe there was more of her in these chapters, but there's not really. She's just kind of
here and there. She'll have a one-off throwaway line. That's about it.
Right. She's just kind of present. And which to me it makes it a little weak later when she's just so completely loyal to Elaine, because it doesn't show them having much of a relationship. We basically have to assume that developed, kind of off stage.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, she's always talking to Rand about, oh, you belong to Elaine, and I will make sure that you don't cheat on her, basically. But, we later realize that she's just sort of being defensive and deflecting a little bit to some degree. But also, yeah, she does still love Elaine, it seems. Return to Thom, who's juggling for servants in the stone, trying to plant seeds of rumors, turn the people against the High Lords, and feel allegiance to Rand. Goes back to his room, finds none other than Moraine. We know why she's here, I think. Been through the Twisted Stone doorway and asked her questions. And so what is the first thing she does? Place a hand on Tom's knee. It eases the pain of his old wound a little with healing. She mentions a High Lord was opposed to Rand, died in a hunting accident, but insinuates that Thom was involved. And then she straight up calls him out. Once called the Grey Fox, court bard of Caemlyn, Morghase's lover after Tarangale died. She says Tarangale wanted Morghase to die, or he'd be crowned first king of Andor. So fortunate that he died. And so what does Thom do? He calls her out right back. She's the High Lady Moraine of House Damodred, Tarangale's youngest half sister. The Thought Plickens. He mentions. I guess thought isn't really. Can't really say that anymore. Anyway, he also mentions connections high in the White Tower. Right on the money, of course. Moraine says she doesn't use her house name ever since the business with the Sin of Layman, cutting down Aviendha, wherever you say it.
Aviendha.
The sapling of the Tree of Life. I can't remember how you say it or spell it.
Aviendha.
No, the cutting in Kyrian. I think it's Aviendha.
Oh, yeah. That's right. It's a different. The Tree of Life is Aviendha, but the particular, the one in Kyrian had a different name. Aviendha. It's like that moment in Army of Darkness when he can't remember the third word. Avada.
Oh, exactly. Moraine asks, really tells Thom he has to go to Tanchico with Nynaeve and Elaine. He thinks she's just trying to separate him from Rand and resists. Then Moraine brings up Owen, Thom's nephew who could channel, and promises she can tell Thom which Red Sisters gentled Owen if he goes to Terrebonne with the girls. So not a fun visit after all, although throughout this whole thing there's hints of a smile from Moraine at various times. She says he will survive Terrebonne. So how does she know that? Well, maybe it has something to do with the answer she got from certain snake persons.
Maybe.
Yeah, not for sure, but maybe. Back to Min, who jumps when Galad calls her name, Elmendretta, and pricks her finger while attempting to sew. For some reason, her disguise works on Galad, even though Gawain recognized her instantly. I guess Galad's just a bit more self-involved. I don't know.
Maybe Galad just never noticed Min to begin with.
Right. All the other women fawning over him. Gawain wants her to convince Galad that he's an idiot for reading the White Cloak Handbook, The Way of the Light, by Lothair Mantelar. It's pretty bad stuff, though. I mean, therefore abjure all pleasure, for goodness is a pure abstract, a perfect crystalline ideal, which is obscured by base emotion. Pamper not the flesh.
But when you get to know Galad at this point, from what we know of the White Cloaks, you're like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense.
Oh, yeah,
he would totally be into any kind of religious order that says, here's how you should behave, here's the standard, because he is all into the rules.
They see Logain sadly wandering around the gardens, being all emo and gentled, but Min sees a halo around his head, which means he's destined for greatness, gentled or not. Min tells the Emerlin about it, who doesn't do anything about that either, because she's like, all right, stop telling me stuff. I can't do anything about it.
Right. Again, I feel like she's just realizing what we, the readers, already know, which is this is pretty much useless information.
Right.
Okay. So he's destined for greatness. What does that mean? Is he going to get like the high score on Space Invaders at the arcade?
Win the lottery? I mean, yes.
Yeah.
So this next part threw me off a little bit, and maybe you can shed some light on this. The Emerlin tells her that the blight has receded 2 miles along the whole length. Do we ever find out why that happened? It just did not ring any bells for me.
I don't think so. I feel like it may be the only mention of it. And listeners, if you know differently, I'd like to hear it.
I would too.
Because I thought the same thing on this. On this read through, I was like, I'd completely forgotten about that moment because I don't know that it ever comes up again.
Very strange. The Emerlin gets a message with Lyanna while Min is standing there. Mazerum Taim has escaped. Then she gets some good news that Rand has declared himself and that the stone has fallen, which means she can ask the tower to officially support him, sort of come out of the shadows for her shadowy support she's been offering.
Right.
This chapter ends with Sarah Coventry, who is working on a farm when an Aes Sedai shows up, asks about Min, and kills her.
Yeah, this was always confusing to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was. maybe it was
for one thing. Who
was it? Lanfear? Was it? I don't know.
Yeah, who was it? And also, why did she have to die? I mean, what was her? All she knew was that Min was in the White Tower, and that really was, in the long run, relatively inconsequential. But
maybe Jordan was
whatever.
like, I haven't killed enough characters recently.
Exactly.
Here's a throwaway character I can kill and no one will mind.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, you can also, if it's Lanfear or Mogideon or whoever it is, they could just, they don't need an excuse to kill somebody, I guess. Just.
True. Yeah, just tying up loose ends, more or less.
Mhm.
So, chapter 18, we commence the traveling chapters, which always kind of have some filler. Perrin and Fael, drama continues in the ways.
Blah, 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 blah.
Gaul casually mentions that his clan and Chiads have blood feuds, but he won't dance the spears with her unless she offers. This leads to a lot of aggressive kind of flirting.
Yeah.
Aiyo, man.
Yeah, who knows? They're strange.
Nynaeve and Elaine are on their way to Tanchico, and this is actually a pretty interesting chapter. We encounter the Athaan Mier, the sea folk.
Right, learn a lot about the sea folk.
They decide to go with the sea folk because they have the fastest ships. They can make the Kessel run in 12 parsecs. Or something.
Exactly.
Moraine she's told them how to ask for passage. Although it should be said that Aes Sedai typically do not get passage. It's not normal for them to. So they board. They go below and meet with the sail mistress Coin and Joran the Windfinder.
There's a whole funny thing here too, by the way, that is just entertaining to me, where they say the gift of passage,
right.
But then you offer them a gift.
Right.
They don't want to act like that you're paying for anything, but they also expect a gift in return.
You're exchanging gifts. Yes, good point.
It's this whole funny thing of, the gift of passage. And, what gift are you going to offer us? A letter of rights.
In this case, a check for $3,000. I mean,
exactly. Enough to purchase a whole bunch of ships, apparently.
Yeah. An absurd sum of money. And then also, while they're there's a sailor chick walking around topless. So Exhibit A for why I could see the show not being PG rated, as we've discussed. But
right.
Who knows? This is one of those details not required to advance the plot. On the other hand, as nudity goes, this particular bit is a bit empowering to women. So, there's that. Mom, if you're listening, I want to emphasize that I'm not lobbying for this to be in the show. Just saying that, compared to other nudity and other shows, at least this one is empowering. I don't know.
And not purely objectifying. So this also brings up something that when people talk about ways that the books could be shortened for the sake of the show, one of the things that I've heard brought up continually is completely eliminating the sea folk.
Wow.
Which would be sad because they're an interesting culture. They're totally different from anybody else. But as you think about it, it would be pretty easy to cut them out.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I mean, we'd miss some stuff, but plot wise,
you could shift a lot of the plot to other cultures. I mean, easily enough.
So I'm hopeful they don't cut them out, but at the same time, as people have made the argument for it, it's like,
there's a lot in these books.
Yes. So who knows? I'm hoping they'll keep them in at least a little bit.
Right. So we get a little bit about who the sea folk are. They during the breaking of the world, they took to the seas for refuge, even though they had never sailed before. They are destined to wander the seas until the Kuramor comes again, which is their name for the dragon. Everybody's got their own name for him, but then they're supposed to serve him when he shows up.
And immediately they're like, "Oh well, the Kuramor's here."
Yeah,
so.
we work for him, and they're like, and so Coin's like, "Okay, well in that case, we will take you, and we won't take payment." So just as her husband walks in. He's kind of like the trader, and he's complaining about snow fox pelts. She tells him they're going to Tanchico, and he's mad, but she's the boss.
Yep.
So right after they come to an agreement, a sonic boom occurs that knocks Wave Dancer, which is the ship, around, and everybody's like, "What the heck was that?" And run up top of the deck. So they run up there just in time to see Thom and Julian also asking for passage. No word yet on what knocked the ship around. We'll get to that in a minute. Julian says Lan asked him to accompany the ladies. Thom mentions his conversations with Moraine. Elaine makes things needlessly awkward by tweaking Tom's mustache. So Nynaeve says the fellas can come if they agree to everything she and Elaine says to do. Then they're off, headed through the fingers of the dragon, into the Sea of Storms. As soon as the ship leaves the shoreline, all the women take their tops off. So, here's my thinking on this. Will Amazon be able to resist filming a scene with what amounts to a bunch of lady sailors not wearing shirts? I don't know. I mean, I hope so. I don't. This doesn't need to be in the show, but this scene and others like it, if the Sea Folk are in the show, make me wonder. But
Well, I think once again, like we said it in the last, but it just comes down to what audience they're going to go
totally,
for.
100%. The other thing is Julian's embarrassment would make for some good laughs because he's like red faced and like, oh gosh, where should I look the whole time. Even Elaine is like that a little bit, like, oh, how improper.
Right.
Elaine and Thom kind of talk on the ship deck. Elaine still doesn't remember how or why she knows Thom, but she's like, where do I know him from? We know, of course, and he knows. But she was so little, she was like a little kid when he was in Andor, so it makes sense that she wouldn't immediately kind of put two and two together. But it does seem like the fact that he was a court bard is a pretty badly kept secret at this point. Like, How did you not get that memo yet? We do get our maybe first mention of Shara here. Elaine mentions the Sea Folk had been destined for Shara, the land beyond the waste, before they were diverted. And Elaine is on the verge of remembering how she knew Thom. Then she spots one of the Sea Folk channeling. It's Joran, the Windfinder, and channeling water and air in cable thick flows that reach across the horizon like a web. Of course, this is how the Sea Folk travel so fast, and the reason why they're reluctant to carry Aes Sedai. They know if the Windfinders were found out, they would be hauled off to the tower to be trained by Aes Sedai. So, if they can channel. Right. Elaine says, I'll try to keep your secret, but says, will you teach me how to do what you do? Because Elaine says she's never seen a flow that thick, or, the way that she's weaving. As an aside, the Sea Folks call their ships he, because a ship is alive like a man with a heart. Care for him and he will fight for you against the worst sea. Neglect him and he will drown you under a cloudless sky. I liked that.
Yeah, just like a man.
Exactly. Chapter 21. Moraine, Lan, Mat, and Egwene are in the Great Hall of the Stone of Tyr because Rand has said he's going to make an announcement. He's going to tell them what he's going to do.
School assembly.
Yeah, this is kind of what it feels like. Moraine and Egwene take this opportunity to gossip about Perrin's love life a little bit.
Right.
Then Rand walks in with Callandor kind of on his shoulder. He announces that the armies of Tyr will march, and they all cheer. And then he says, Yay! But not to Ilion, to Cairhien.
Boo!
Moraine is kind of mad because he didn't take her advice, but a little proud because he schemes to mess with some nobles who are plotting against him. Does some kind of dirty stuff, he says. But then he tells the nobles he isn't coming with them to Cairhien, and he isn't taking Callandor with him either. And he makes a point of that last by driving Callandor point first into the floor, presumably with the power because he's not the Incredible Hulk. Lightning crackles, maybe more like Thor, I don't know. But he drives it in like halfway into the stone and stuck fast. And of course, that was our sonic boom. That's what knocked the world around. And he says anyone who wants to take his place, just come pull it out. They might find a nasty surprise or two if they try. And he explains that he did it to fulfill the prophecy. Into the heart he thrust his sword, into the heart to hold their hearts. Who draws it out shall follow after. What hand can grasp that fearful blade? A little on the nose, but all right. So then Rand tells Moraine he's headed to Rhuidean with the Aiel, and she can tag along if she wants. That's his plan. He's sticking to it. Then we get back to Rand's perspective after the epic moment in the stone, as he's riding out of Tyr. Egwene asks him, why he let the Aiel take the fifth, which is they basically just take a fifth of the stuff from wherever they conquer. And he's like, well, I wasn't going to be able to stop them. And also, I don't care about defending Tyrant Lord riches, so, And then she asks him why he let Elaine go without asking her to stay. And as is customary with such conversations, Rand is totally confused.
Yeah, you have the two different notes from Elaine.
Right. It's like conflicting notes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one that's like, hey, I love you, and one that's like, hey, fall in line, and...
Exactly, yep. So Moraine asks him, what's next? And Rand says, portal stones, because it went so well last time.
Yes.
There's one at Rhuidean, so he wants to find one that'll take him there, and there's another one like an hour's ride away. So he sets the Aiel to searching for it. Aviendha finds it, and tells Rand he's a jerk because of the way he treated Elaine, and she doesn't like him very much, which thus defines their relationship for many pages to learn.
Right.
Until a certain scene in an igloo. But
this part, this is what I'm saying. This is confusing to me because I really don't understand why Aviendha would have such great affections for Elaine.
Right.
For Nynaeve, who saved her spear sister
That's a good point.
in the last book, I could understand. It almost seemed like that she and Egwene were getting along more
Yeah.
in a few of these scenes, but she and Elaine hardly have any interaction.
That's a totally valid point. I don't know. Yeah. All I can figure is that she already was in love with Rand and denying it to herself and just like, no,
Sure.
I will protect Elaine's honor, and like
Yeah.
against myself, presumably.
I mean, in general, the three Rand wives relationship with him and their reasoning or not reasoning, but they're just falling in love with him is kind of
Forced.
some of the weakest,
Yeah, it's forced. Totally.
stuff in all the books, because I don't ever really feel like it's totally believable that any of these women would just fall blindly in love with somebody.
Not at all. I agree. Yeah, that would be if there was anything I would be cool with them changing in the TV series, it'd be that. Like make it make more sense. I mean, I'm not saying take it out, but just I don't know,
Sure.
expand on it somehow. Make it more believable.
I think anybody would appreciate a little more agency from the women in that, where it's not just like the pattern is like, whoop, you're in love, and
there's nothing I can do about it.
Exactly, where there's something that shows why they would be interested in Rand, and it can't be just that he's a handsome guy.
100%. Yeah, no matter how tall and blue-eyed he might be.
So we're on to portal stones and I'd just like to point out that in the description, and there's a picture of this on the fandom wikia, that the symbol for Roidion is basically the international symbol for danger electricity, is what it is described as.
Love it.
That it's turned on its side, but it's like a triangle with kind of a slashing arrow thing.
Interesting.
All right, well, we'll pause there and pick it up next week. As always, want to remind you that we love hearing from you guys. So whether you're commenting on our Instagram or tweeting at us at Podcast TSM or emailing us at stuff@tsmpodcast.com, we'd love to hear from you. You can also like and share and give us a rating, give us a review. We'd love to hear everything that we're doing wrong. We'll be picking up next week with yet another part of the Shadow Rising. So until next time, Tai'Shar Manetheren.